Hey, good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, Wealth Wellness Wednesday. I believe it's January 26th. Yes, it is. Just had to confirm that. Isn't it so amazing that we know the date yet? Like we have to look at our different devices and our calendars to make sure we actually are on the right date. Hey, everyone. My name is Janice, aka Wellness Diva 5.0 with TwoSistas. And we hopefully will have Carol Sue on with us momentarily. But in the interim today, we have an amazing guest. And I know I'm probably going to chop her name up, which I initially did when we met a couple of months ago. And I think I may have even spelt your name wrong. So on the tagline, so I do apologize for that. Today we want to welcome Joli, correct?
Did I say Jolly? Jolly isn't happy.
Jolly, that's right. I remember that conversation because I that was such a tongue twister. I was like, Joli, no, it's Jolly. So thank you so much for correcting me with that. I do appreciate that. And excuse me, you are an amazing holistic Reiki practitioner. And I just kind of really want to dive into that because we were just having this great conversation before we hopped on. So if you can kind of describe for our audience what exactly it is that you do.
Thank you, Janice. And thank you so much for inviting me on today. I really appreciate it. So I am a Reiki Master practitioner and teacher. And I first started learning Reiki back in 2006 as a part of a journey to self-care. Reiki is a Japanese spiritual practice, actually, or I should say it's a spiritual practice, which in this particular iteration came from Japan. You can probably find very similar practices in other cultures in other regions of the world. But essentially, it's this kind of concept that we're tapping into a kind of spiritual source, universal source of energy, and that we combine the use of this energy with, in the case of Reiki from Japan, these 5 precepts that kind of guide our lives. And they include trying, so just for today, I will not anger. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will do my best. Just for today, I will be kind to all living things. Just for today, I will honor the people who came before me. So, and there's different, again, iterations of that, but the idea is that it's actually a personal spiritual practice. But then as you embody it and become more and more, or dive deeper into the practice, you can sometimes help other people. And that really is the icing on the cake, if you will. So with my Reiki practice, I do both in-person sessions and remote sessions, i.e. distance sessions. And it's to really help people with all sorts of challenges, whether it's grief, insomnia, anxiety, pain, physical pain. So it's very rewarding, to say the least. Yeah.
I can imagine in having that type of a practice where you're able to help others, even, obviously remotely, I think is an amazing addition to what you do because, literally you can, work with somebody around the world, excuse me, and to be able to tap into those gifts, I think is amazing. And I want to go back to our conversation. I want to share that with everyone because I think it's pretty amazing. So I had shared that my son Ryan had suffered a life-threatening injury back in July, and last night he went for his CAT scan. He has an upcoming surgery. We don't know when the surgery is yet, to replace the left side of his skull. And the conversation that we led into, I thought was kind of amazing, because you had picked out some things that I was feeling. So if we can kind of just go back to that conversation, and if you wouldn't mind sharing with what you were starting to share with me about that conversation.
Oh yeah, no, that would be great. I'm very just feeling very blessed that you're willing to share this with others. So we were talking about the fact that, you know, your son's had this CAT scan. It's you know, he's been having to do all, you know, really modify how he's been living since the accident last July. And so this CAT scan kind of represents this you know, small move forward. This is in preparation for surgery that will allow him to maybe go back to more of a normal life. And so, you know, you were saying how excited you were for him. Of course, the surgery, any surgery is not without risk, but, you know, he's opted for using particular material in his surgery. And so, you know, there's a lot of engagement for moving forward. And what's interesting is that I feel, you know, modern society doesn't really teach us how to be in that liminal space, that threshold where it's not what it was before the accident last summer, but you're not yet into the space where it's post-surgery. And so you're in this liminal space. You're on the threshold, and it's a space that modern society doesn't value. And so therefore modern society doesn't teach us how to be there. And so I feel that, you know, this comes up obviously a lot in my Reiki work, and is part of the reason why I'm so familiar with it. It's so important to, as you know, maybe overly sentimental as it may sound, to find how do you see life differently from before? How will life change after? What is it that I'm feeling now? What am I gaining now? You know, it's that whole idea of trying to find the gold amidst the rubble. You know, what can we do to make this liminal space actually meaningful, and not something that, oh yeah, just let's get it out of the way. Let's get it out of the way. You know, that rushing through is such a, I think a poor, I don't know what the word is, but it's something that comes out of modern living, and I think is to our detriment. So,
You know, and thank you for sharing that, because obviously the way that I found out to what had happened or transpired with my son to where I am today really has been such a roller coaster. And as any parent can certainly relate to, when your child is injured and you find out about it at 2 o'clock the next morning, it really, how do I explain it? It really like shattered my nerves in such a way that I never, ever expected. And looking back on that, you know, I look back, his injury actually occurred on Monday, July 19th at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I didn't technically find out until about 13 hours later at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I go back to that time frame where here I am going about my day, having a great day, business is doing great, the this, the that, I remember it being such a beautiful, bright day. And at that time, obviously I didn't know, but my son was suffering from a life-threatening injury. And when I found out about that at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was beside myself. Like when I say that I lost it, I lost it. I typically have to get up in the middle of the night anyways, and, grabbed my phone and, picked up my phone again, and then, happened to look at it, and I see a text message. Ryan had a stroke and is in emergency surgery. And I'm like, what the, like I screamed. So from that moment to where I am today is really such a journey. I don't know how to describe it then other than a journey of ups and downs, and to the point where obviously I made it to Philly as soon as I could. And everything that transpired in between. But I also look at that journey, that specific time frame. So many people moved heaven and earth for me to do what I needed to do. And I am so grateful for all those that made it seamlessly happen in such a magical kind of way. I don't know how to explain it, but for instance, my cousin in Philly, who happened, I looked, in the middle of the night, I looked up his address to where the hospital where my son was, which wasn't that, not much of a, jaunt for that. So I'm like, well, I'll call them first thing in the morning, maybe they can pick me up at the train station. Like everybody, from the moment I made that call to my sister to the moment that I made, contacted the rest of my family, like everybody moved heaven and earth for me to get to where I needed to go and supported me throughout that whole journey. And I am just so grateful beyond measure. And, even though he's had quite a few setbacks, people will say, hey, how's Ryan doing? And I'm like, considering everything he's been through, in my opinion, and I still say this, but I say it because I believe it, his progress thus far is miraculous, in my opinion.
I love that.
And, I hold on to that because we could have had a different outcome, and we didn't, because that first week that he was in critical condition, it was doom and gloom, doom and gloom. And, when you're in that, it's like, how do you move past that, or how do you deal with that? So this has been an ongoing thing for me, for not only myself, but obviously my son. He turns 35 this year. Gosh, I sometimes have to think about that, but, because when he was a sidebar, when he was little, he would always say, oh, Mom, just, this time of year, just say that I'm 14, because I'm going to be 14, in a couple months. So I always have to like, okay, how old is he?
Wait, no. Yeah. How much am I adding to that?
So he's presently 34. He'll be 35, I believe. And I'm just so excited for him to embrace what's ahead for him, because he's so creative. He's so excuse me, he's so vibrant, and why wouldn't I be excited for him? And obviously as a mom, it's like, as you said, with going through something like that, any type of surgery, there's, always that, but, I accept whatever is to come, because I know that in the end, that's going to help him to get back to where he wants to be. So I just couldn't be more excited for him as he starts to kind of, work toward that goal of, going through this surgery. So I have so much to be blessed and grateful for.
Which is such a beautiful way to put it, Janice. I mean, I think, again, to a certain extent, it's recognizing that, your ability to acknowledge this beautiful web of people and circumstances that allowed you to get to your son in time. These are energetic connections. They're energy fields that are interacting with each other. But to a certain extent, we do have a choice in how we respond to these things. When I'm not doing my holistic work, I can get very, very political. And I'm going to do my best not to stand on any soapboxes today. But, I think that, like, one of the reasons why I find astrology so fascinating is because there's this debate, how do we have free will? Is it all charted out for us? Or is there a measure of free will that allows us to make things different? Or is the free will simply how we respond to something? It's going to happen one way or the other. But do I respond to it as a victim, or do I respond to it with gratitude and grace? So, is that free will? I really love getting into those kind of very meaty, existential, metaphysical questions.
And I think that's kind of a key, obviously, to the type of work that you do, that you love to do. And, I wonder, would I have wanted that to happen? Obviously not. Nobody wants to see their child hurt. But the fact is that it did happen. I had no control over it. And, I did I have control over the outcome? I only had control over my feelings and how I felt as a parent, and my need to get to my son as soon as I could. And, to make sure that I adequately, obviously kept his dad and stepmom informed of what was happening. And, we all banded together because, that was our common goal. In fact, that's Ryan's picture there. That's his senior picture. And obviously from quite a few years ago, but it's like I always have him over my shoulder. And that's a great reminder that, no matter what happens or what transpires, there's always going to be that love there. There's always going to be this situation that we all went through together. And
yes.
I am grateful that I'm just so grateful for so much. And let me tell you, that didn't happen overnight for me to say that, because there were points in time there that I would wake up in the middle of the night, oh my God, do I have another text message? What's going on with Ryan? But you learn to not deal with it, but I guess, deal with what is happening and transpiring, and knowing that I can't control what is happening, but I can control how I react to something. And it's been a long time coming for everybody involved with Ryan's care. And I'm, wow, there's so much. I should write a book on just the subject alone.
You could, and it would probably help a lot of people, because again, this is not something that is taught to us in the course of modern society and modern day living. If anything, modern day living is all about go productivity, and one of the things that I have been trying to stress in my practice is, if you want that productivity, you need to have productive rest. You have to view rest as being productive. as part of the cycle of productivity. But again, that gets warped in modern day living. So, but to go back to your point about, the gratitude and the container that you built, basically, a painstaking process, but you built this container, this web of support and this kind of energetic bonding where, it was as much as possible sending love and good thoughts to your son.
Mhm.
And it might poo-poo that as, because we can't see it, right? You talk about it, but you don't see it. And so you're just like, yeah, well, whatever. But no, that's huge. That's a big deal, because that affects how your son is going to respond to his treatment. Everything we do has a ripple effect. Everything. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And, even like a small detail, you mentioned that when you got that initial text message at 2 a.m, you Googled, you found a cousin that lives not far from the hospital. And you said, okay, so I'll call this cousin first thing in the morning. And I just thought, how thoughtful is that? Because if it were me, I would probably be going, I don't care what time it is, I'm calling you right now. You know what I mean? So, those are moments of grace that I think are, again, so important to recognize. A big thing in the wellness industry right now is this whole concept of celebrating your wins. Because when we celebrate them, the human brain has a propensity to focus on what is gone wrong, what has not worked, what is bad. And it's partly because that is the vestige of the survival strategy. The brain is existing purely to help keep you alive and survive. And so the brain is hyper focused on what's gone wrong, so I don't let it happen again, so that I can stay alive. So we have to, this is where, again, maybe you could argue free will comes in. We have to make an effort to focus on the wins, to focus on what's good, to focus on what helps. And every small act, deed, word makes a difference. It really does.
Excuse me, it really does. And I've had several occasions where I've had to eventually drive down by myself at different points in time. And I don't like driving long distances, but obviously I know I was going to see my son, so that made it, of course, a lot better. But those, as hard as those times were, there were also some of the greatest conversations that I've had with my son. So, again, definitely blessed. My first trip down there, when I got the text message, and I started calling everybody at 6 a.m. I'm like, I know it's early, but I don't care. I'm going to call people now. By the time I got a chance to call my cousin, his wife picked up, and she just like immediately knew, obviously by the tone of my voice. And I had probably about a half an hour to take a quick shower, pack something, and get to the train station. Like literally a half an hour. New Haven is probably about 10-15 minutes, depending on traffic. So technically I only had about 15 minutes to get ready. I remember packing, in fact, it's underneath my desk, this piece of luggage. I have no idea what I put in there. So my cousin's wife said, call me or send me a text message when you're on the train. So I think I called her. And I said, I have no idea what I packed. Not a clue.
Yeah.
She said, okay, so what size she asked me what sizes I wore.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to Philly, like absolutely amazing. She and her daughters went shopping. They bought me clothes. They bought me a backpack, put all sorts of water and snacks and hand sanitizer and like you name it, it was in there. And I thought to myself, oh my God. Like my eyes kind of well up thinking about that, like in such a time of need. Wow.
You're making
Just
me well up. It's so beautiful.
yeah, I mean, wow. And she took me right to the emergency room and
Mm.
stayed with me for a while. And whew, God bless. I mean, as crazy at the time that was, it was just so amazing how all of my family rallied, and so grateful. um but back to what you do with, are you seeing a lot of I imagine that a lot of your practice is basically online now, because you mentioned obviously that you do uh your sessions remotely.
So yes, prior to the pandemic, I was working at a multidisciplinary kind of integrated health clinic that specialized in back pain. Um, and I was offering in-person Reiki sessions there for about 2 years prior to the pandemic. Um, and then the UK went into lockdown. And at the time, I wasn't registered with the Complementary and Natural Healthcare Council. So the CNHC um, really sets a high bar for Reiki practitioners, amongst other complementary therapists. And for me,
Yeah, something happened with the sound.
it keeps okay. Okay, hopefully that's okay. So essentially, I didn't have the badging at the time to go back to in-person sessions. I now have that badging, which I'm very, very happy about. But of course, with Omicron, people are still concerned, and understandably so. So I am still offering in-person sessions, but a lot of people have been opting for the online sessions, the remote sessions. And that's been fine because, as you said, by doing it that way, I'm not having to worry about distance or travel. Neither does the client. They can be anywhere in the world. And what's even nicer is often, as anyone who's had a Reiki session knows, afterwards, you don't really want to do anything, much less get into a car and drive somewhere. It'd be much nicer if you could put your feet up or just take some time. And so to be able to do that in the comfort of your own home is really, really nice.
That's pretty neat. And how would our viewers and listeners get a hold of you?
So I have a website. My practice name is Bodhi Mindful, and that's a play on Body Mindful. It's BodhiMindful, so all one word. So bodhimindful.com. I do have a Facebook page, and I also have an Instagram account under that name. So those are probably the easiest ways to get in touch. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I'm writing that down myself. So, and I know I have it, but so I won't forget, bodhimindful.com. That is wonderful. Well, I so appreciate your being on today and sharing with us your wisdom and knowledge on what you do, being a Reiki holistic practitioner. And I hope that you will definitely consider coming on again. Any parting words?
I think it's important to recognize a lot of my work is done through the lens of nervous system health and education. And I'm really passionate about teaching people what's going on in their physiology. And so I would just harken back to one moment when you were saying, you know, like when times are tough and you don't know, you're feeling low, you don't know what's going on. As hard as it is, sometimes I liken it to being caught in a wave. And the more you fight the wave, the more water's going to go up your nose. It's just really not pleasant. So the best way to come out of a wave is to surrender to it. And so it's and then, you know, I would only suggest that when you surrender, if you can reach out to someone, a friend, a colleague, a family member, a therapist, and say, I'm in this rough place. I'm trying to surrender to it. Can you help me? I just think is again, something that we're not taught to do and is really worth remembering.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And what a powerful message. That is amazing. I'm thinking about that as I'm trying to come up with some words here. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Hey, everyone, you know, Wealth Wellness Wednesday is all about creating that ripple effect. How will you create yours? Again, Joli, I want to thank you so much. I hope I said that correctly. I'm always doubting myself. Should never do that.
No.
Thank you so much for being on the Two Sistas podcast, and we will see you tomorrow for Trending Thursday. I am signing off for now. This is Janice, aka Wellness Diva 5.0 with Two Sistas. Make it a great one. Create that ripple effect. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.